opposition was so bad that we would be stalled forever. But miracles happen, prayers are answered, and here we are today, fighting out amendments, getting a good, comprehensive bill in Pennsylvania for the first time in many, many years. Today, we have a wide variety of speakers for you to listen to. We won't take up much of your time. We have House representatives. There's supposed to be a senator coming. We have patients that have been criminalized while they've been waiting. We have patients that are still waiting, and we have patients that are taking matters into their own hands. We are thankful for today, and we want to thank each and every House rep that has fought so tirelessly for us patients and for us advocates. There are so many lives that will be greatly affected by what we're about to do here today and tomorrow. The quality of life for so many people can change. I seen a miracle last week. A friend of mine is illegally healing. He uses maple syrup infused with cannabis. He has multiple sclerosis. When I first visited him, I went in to talk to him and he couldn't move his arms. He had just been able to use the television remote. I watched him take a dropper full of cannabis oil infused maple syrup, and within 20 minutes, he was picking up a pen and twirling it around in the air like it was a baton, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I haven't been able to do this in 3 days." Miracles will happen. And I'm here today to tell everybody that we've fought so hard for. I cannot wait to read your success stories. Let me introduce to you Mr. Rosenzweig of Philly NORML.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Rosenzweig. I serve on the board of directors for the Philadelphia chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Our mission is to educate the public about the consequences of marijuana prohibition and the benefits of alternative policies, and to provide a catalyst for the public to express their concerns to elected officials. I personally became involved in these efforts in 2003 while I was still in college. Soon after, we embarked on the beginning of the journey of legalizing medical cannabis in the Commonwealth. What started for me as a realization that I and my friends could go to jail for a long time simply for smoking a little weed planted a seed of disbelief. I then researched the war on drugs, learning about its unjust nature, how it does the opposite of its stated purpose, and is built on a house of cards and lies. That seed of disbelief quickly turned into a question of whether our state and country were run by incompetent people who didn't realize the damage they were doing, or by competent people who did. That question turned into fear when I realized that the answer was both. That fear turned into a heated anger and a determination to change the law when I realized how much medical marijuana could help my father deal with his ever-increasing chronic and breakthrough pain that his doctors really had no idea what the cause was. Even before 2001, my father Lewis started having serious pain problems. Nobody knew where it was coming from. We were all confused when everyday stuff would put him completely out. It was not until 2003 that his physicians diagnosed him with reflex sympathetic dystrophy, also known as complex regional pain syndrome. This condition causes severe, intractable, and intense breakthrough pain. It tops the McGill pain scale. It's more painful than migraines, than childbirth, than getting shot, essentially anything else. He deals with it every day, every night, and the condition begets other symptoms as well, including extreme sensitivity to light and sound, heat flashes and sweating, and discoloration of the skin, to name a few. It's so bad that, except on extremely rare occasions, he's unable to even leave the house for extended periods of time. The best his physicians can do is put him on opiate-based drugs, and they've tried dozens of combinations throughout the years until they found one that sort of works. The first time I stood here in 2009 was with Representative Mark Cohen, right before we went into the very first hearing on medical cannabis. It makes me sick to know that it's taken 7 years for the issue of compassionate use to make it to the floor of the House of Representatives. For the legislature to pay attention to what we've been saying all along, to see the truth about cannabis, its history, and its medical properties. But I will say it is very good to be here today as this debate finally begins on the House floor. Time is our most precious commodity. My father has been waiting for over 10 years for this legislature to pass a medical marijuana bill. During that time, he could have had a much better quality of life, enough so to be able to visit me at my own home or go out to a restaurant for dinner once in a while. During that time, Lorelei, Anna, and thousands of other children and adults with epilepsy could have been effectively treating their condition. That time could have been spent developing their brains, their social skills, relationships, and education, rather than blocking any chance of that development. During that time, 22 veterans may not have taken their own lives every day in a futile effort to stop the nightmares and visions of war, death, and destruction. I've never been shy about the fact that I smoke cannabis, and I am not a patient. I am one of the millions of cannabis consumers in Pennsylvania who does it simply because I like it, and because there's nothing wrong with that. It's no worse than having a coffee, and it's far safer than soda, whiskey, or beer. In fact, the most dangerous thing about it is the risk of arrest and prosecution. Having firsthand knowledge of cannabis and what people go through to get it under prohibition has its advantages. Because marijuana is extremely easy to get, generally, for patients and casual users alike. It's everywhere, with tens of thousands of people cultivating gardens in Pennsylvania as we speak. The problem is that in the black market, you never know what you're going to get. Everything is hidden and obscured. You may not have a truthful supplier. They may not know what they have. Depending on where it came from, the quality and potency may be compromised. Then again, the knowledge to grow high-quality cannabis has proliferated in the internet age, and seeds and clones of high-quality strains are readily available. And I guess that a large percentage of growers in Pennsylvania nowadays can and do cultivate good cannabis strains to high-quality standards. But depending on who you know, it could take hours or days to get it. From a consumer standpoint, it's inconvenient, but not a hindrance or a deterrent. From a patient's standpoint, a steady, reliable supply is necessary, and the black market will not be sufficient. If PA passes a medical cannabis bill that resembles New Jersey or New York's, that is all patients really will have. What angers me the most about the irrationality of marijuana prohibition is that as readily available as cannabis is, I could go to jail for providing it to my dad. What pisses me off even more is that if he were able to use it and find relief, he too would be at risk of arrest, jail time, a criminal record, and the humiliation of enduring that situation. Even worse, his pain management physician, Dr. Rosenthal, would be forced to immediately cease his current opioid-based treatment after his regular drug tests. For those reasons, he won't even use it while it's illegal. I respect my father for this position and the integrity of following the law, even if it means he continues to be in horrendous pain every day. Why people like Mike Turzai and Matt Baker think they have any idea what they're talking about boggles the mind, because they don't have a clue when it comes to the subject. I know from firsthand experience that medical cannabis will be a positive thing for my father and thousands of others in chronic pain. Marijuana is here already. Turzai, Baker, and the others who are against medical cannabis are merely delaying the inevitable. Their policy of prohibition cannot be maintained, not with lies and deceit, which is all they have. The facts support better policies. First and foremost is making it so that patients who use marijuana for medical purposes and the caregivers who provide it are protected from arrest. Very simple. It's the most readily available form of the medicine and the cheapest to produce and distribute. This is the basis of every successful medical marijuana program in the United States. This is why the final bill, Senate Bill 3, must include language specifying that whole plant, leaf, or bud form is allowed to avoid any confusion. Even New Jersey, for all its many flaws, recognizes this basic fact. Senate Bill 3 has gone through a number of changes since it was first introduced and passed out of the Senate. A number of amendments are being considered in the House as well. One of them is to remove the illogical 10% THC, or cap on THC content. It makes no sense whatsoever. Even the limited number of dispensaries in New Jersey, which also has a 10% THC cap, don't really adhere to it. I've seen packaging showing up to 24% THCA, which is a chemical that degrades into THC with lighter heat. Representative Diamond has introduced the amendment to remove this restriction, and we encourage all the House members to vote yes on this amendment when it reaches the floor today. Representative Petrarch has also proposed 2 amendments that we want the members of the House to support. One will require the Health Department to issue its report in 2 years instead of 3, and the other will allow otherwise qualified individuals to serve, otherwise qualified individuals with drug offenses older than 5 years to serve as caregivers. SB 3 is not perfect. It's not even close. It's missing a number of things out of the gate. The ability for patients and caregivers to grow their own medicine. The ability for physicians to make the final determination of whether cannabis can help their patient, regardless of whether the condition is in the approved list. Ensuring that there are enough growers, processors, and dispensaries to handle the demand without keeping the cost too high. In the current form of SB 3, you have to be a millionaire to be able to register as a cultivator, grower, processor, or dispenser. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's also missing patient protection during the initialization phase while there are no ID cards, registration forms, or advisory board in place. All that said, SB 3 must pass today. The House must vote yes. Some of the issues with SB 3 are things that we can work on as the program begins, but all that depends on the makeup of the advisory board and the specific regulations they adopt. This bill is not the end of the story, though. In future sessions, you can expect to see issues of decriminalization and full legalization and regulation get on the agenda as part of larger overall legislative efforts to fix our criminal justice system. In the meantime, Pennsylvania can focus on implementing this program as quickly as possible so patients will be protected for using this most needed medicine. The last time I stood here, in 2014, in September, myself and other advocates and patients presented a petition to Speaker Turzai. It had 2,500 patient signatures, Pennsylvania citizen signatures, asking him to bring the medical marijuana bill up for debate. Obviously, he did not. I truly hope this is the last time that myself and the people behind me have to stand here and talk about the need for Pennsylvania to legalize medical cannabis. Our elected officials should ask themselves one thing. If their best friend, brother or sister, parent or child are using marijuana, especially for medical purposes, would they call the police and have them arrested? Would they force them into treatment? If a patient today here vaporized some marijuana to treat some breakthrough pain or inclement nausea or to stop a seizure, would they drop everything to have that patient thrown in a jail cell? If they can't honestly say, yes, I would call the cops, they have no place voting no on Senate Bill 3. If they don't believe their friends or family deserve jail time for it, then they shouldn't continue to force jail time on anyone else. I don't believe Turzai or Baker are that callous. I don't even think Tom Corbett is that callous. It's time for Senate Bill 3 to become law. Let's get it done. Thank you very much.
Nick Miccarelli. I'm a member of the State House, and I'm from Delaware County, representing the 162nd District. I'm going to try and be brief here today because, believe it or not, there might be some very serious votes going on later, so I hope we can get to those and get things done today. You know, just a few years ago, the idea of legalizing medicinal cannabis would have been a non-starter here in Pennsylvania. But in those years that have passed, we've seen hundreds of thousands of citizens die from opiate overdoses. The United States is less than 5% of the world's population, yet we consume over 80% of the world's opiates. This issue is particularly personal to me because, as a veteran, I am twice as likely as anyone else to be prescribed opiates and to overdose from them. There's a lot of stories of a lot of veterans, just like Corporal Freeman here. His mother's here. He passed away. One in particular I'd like to share with you is that of Specialist Jeffrey Wagner. He was wounded in Afghanistan by a rocket-propelled grenade. He was medevaced out of Afghanistan, treated for his wounds. He survived his deployment, but when he came home, he he went to the VA, and he was prescribed a cocktail of medications to treat his pain and his post-traumatic stress. He became addicted, so he went to a 2-month VA detox program, and the day he was discharged with many of the same medications that he was in detox to get over, including Vicodin. The night he was discharged, he overdosed on opiates. There are veterans like Specialist Wagner who survived the war in Afghanistan only to come home and lose the war to prescription drug abuse. Now, police in my home county of Delaware, our district attorney, are using the tools that they have available in their arsenal to fight the war on prescription drug abuse. Our cops have used Narcan to save over 200 lives. Police departments have become safe spaces for people seeking drug treatment. We have drug courts that help people get treatment instead of prison sentences. But to this point, our Commonwealth has refused to implement what many of us believe can be the most effective weapon in curbing addiction and prescription drug overdose deaths. That solution, I believe, is medical cannabis. Today, we have a chance to change that. Today, we have a chance to do right by our citizens and give our doctors the ability to help their patients without risky, toxic narcotics. We must act now, I believe, before another person who survived a war comes home to lose a war with prescription drug abuse. Thank you very much, and thank you for your advocacy. Sher Simcisko from the Mothers for Medical Marijuana.
Hi. In July 1st of this year, we stood outside the Capitol and they introduced the task force that was going to make this work. In November, they passed it out of the Rules Committee, and we thought it was going to go then. They said before Thanksgiving, they said before Christmas, they said after the New Year, and we're still waiting. We started a petition to gain support and to get this bill passed. We have right here that we will deliver to Speaker Turzai. We have over 20,000 signatures on this, and over 8,000 of them are from Pennsylvania patients. So we want to get this bill passed, and we want to show them how important it is to us. So I want to turn the mic over to Chuck Homan. He's a patient.
Thank you, Sher. My name is Chuck Homan. I'm a 65-year-old grandfather and retired businessman from Glenville, York County. I was diagnosed with #1 bipolar disorder. As a result, I suffer with a variety of problems, the worst of which is sleep deprivation, which has led to severe fibromyalgia and daily and constant muscle spasms and exhaustion. After 25 years of taking sleeping pills and antidepressants, the symptoms of my disease were no better, and now I had to deal with addiction and withdrawal. Without marijuana, I would have never gotten off the pills. The years of taking pills has my body chemistry in complete chaos. Nothing works for me like it does for most people. My body does not tolerate pills, period, but responds well to cannabis. Cannabis has given me a life that I don't have without it. The CBD side of cannabis puts my depression in remission. No addiction, no withdrawal to worry about. A year and a half ago, I was on my way to a wedding reception and was pulled over in Hanover after blowing a couple puffs of weed out the window. I was a passenger in the car. I wasn't driving. I was medicating to be able to function. I was arrested but wouldn't plead guilty to a crime. I am not a criminal, and I resent being treated like a criminal. My attorney and good friend to the cause, Chris Farrow, advised me that my only defense would be to try to prove it was life-saving medicine for me. In other words, a justification defense, meaning I had no other choice. And for me, this is the truth. A judge who we pay thousands of dollars to weigh the facts and makes decisions said this in his order, and I quote, "Based upon the information in this case alone, the defense has raised it. I don't think the Commonwealth has disproven it beyond a reasonable doubt. As such, in this specific case, I am going to find the defendant not guilty. I also note that it's ironic that it's okay to possess a narcotic under a doctor's care, but you can't have a doctor who will prescribe marijuana. That doesn't make sense. It grows naturally. So that's my finding in this case." End quote. A judge has found marijuana to be life-saving medicine for me. I have met many of you who also need this life-saving medicine for yourselves or for your children. I would like to personally thank Senator Lee, Senator Fulmer, and Representative Cohen for their tireless efforts on behalf of all the suffering Pennsylvania citizens. SB 3 will be a beginning, but for people like me who could not eat or ingest marijuana, this law will do very little. However, we need to start somewhere, and for this I am very grateful. Thank you. The next patient we'll hear from is Ryan Hollingsworth.
To speak for my mother. She passed June of 2014 when we couldn't get the medicine. We knew, and we all know now, this is not anecdotal, we're coming out with stories left and right. I'm hoping the House is here to listen more than ever. They've been stubborn and lied to for 80 years. It really needs to come out and just give us the best bill to help our loved ones live the quality of life that we need. We have people in the building approved through doctors that are being healed, and we have to continue illegally healing. I'm a patient and a future advocate myself, but I'm here for the fight just to continue educating, because I went to the doctors this week. I have to get a skin graft, but because I smoke cannabis, they're not going to see me again within the next 30 days because I give them a hot urine. But they'll give me a prescription to go back and get my meds, which I might need. I'm not saying that we don't all need, the meds, but we should have right to the plant that has been available to us forever and that works with us and heals us. And we're hoping today that they hear us and we get this passed. And it's just about educating your neighbor, because when it happened to me at home, it usually doesn't, everybody doesn't know until it happens at home. And for me, I reached out on Facebook and started asking and wondering, but I did buy the snake oils and I did buy the fake, things trying to help my mom. It was too late when I did get the real medicine, but unfortunately I'm here to help people today, and we need to educate the elders, because they were taught the reefer madness all their lives, and they think that marijuana or cannabis is the devil's drug, and it is here for a medicine to heal us all today. And I thank you and support it. And I would like to announce Dr. Mueller. And thank you very much for your time today.
My name's Scott Mueller. I'm a family practice physician over in Mechanicsburg, and these patients behind me are still waiting, and I'm still waiting to be able to medically certify people. Now, these people behind me have a lot of scary illnesses. You can see it on their signs, but I want to address something today that affects each and every one of you sitting on the other side of this podium. I have an article here that I just happened to come across last month from the American Journal of Medicine about metabolic syndrome. They say there's no research on medical cannabis. Right here in my hand is proof of at least one article where there's medical evidence that medical cannabis can help the health of every single citizen in the state of Pennsylvania. Metabolic syndrome is a condition where people have high blood pressure, they're overweight, they're pre-diabetic, their triglycerides are high, and their good cholesterol is low. The researchers down in Florida found that if a person who's middle-aged has been regularly using medical cannabis, their risk of metabolic syndrome was lower than somebody who was not using it. If anybody would like a copy, I brought 15 copies. I went to a medical cannabis conference a couple of years ago, and I think they quoted there's like 10 to 20,000 articles in the medical literature about medical cannabis. So any physician or any layperson that tries to say there's no medical evidence for medical marijuana is wrong. If any of you or anyone is interested, the patients, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Patients Out of Time group. I think they've been around for about 20 years. They have a conference, and this year their conference is right down in Baltimore. It's in mid-April. There is a fee for attendance, but patients, physicians, and other healthcare people can go to the conference if they want to learn more about medical marijuana. So right now, I'd like to turn the podium over to House Representative Ed Gainey.
First and foremost, good afternoon, and let's give you a hand. Christy, let's give you a hand. Listen, we're here, we're here. You know, they say that there's no process without a struggle. Without a struggle, there's no process. We've been on a journey for a long time to legalize what is right, and that's medical cannabis. We've been on a journey for a long time to help families get the type of relief they need. And today I say thank you, because you are the definition of transformation. You never quit. Today we are here. We know that it goes with second consideration. We know what we have to do, but it couldn't have happened without the advocacy of you. I always told y'all, I've always said, we can get up here and talk about it as legislatures, but there's a difference when they see the people of Pennsylvania saying they want it. So now I have one more request. You know, they have the balcony up there, and I want you to show them today and tomorrow and the next day. As long as it takes, I want you to show them how much we love Pennsylvania. I want them to see the signs that are up. I want them to see the parents. I want them to see the kids. I want them to see why this long journey that we fought for is so good. Not only because we gonna vote today, because you the people stayed together, and now we're this close to making it happen. With no process, there's no struggle. With no struggle, there's no process. And because of your efforts, we're here today. God bless you, and thank you.
You know, when you're going to line up and you got to have somebody follow him, that's a tough one to follow. So I'll take a couple minutes. In my excitement of starting the press conference, my name's Christy Billett. I'm the executor and founder of Pennsylvanians for Safe Access. Pretty sure I missed that earlier. I really want to thank all the representatives. We've had so many great supporters that have told stories situations in their lives that could have greatly actually been helped by cannabis. And I really want to thank the true matriarchs of this. You know, Senator Leach and Senator Fulmer put everything on the line when they introduced this bill as a bipartisan bill in the Senate. And they've done a wonderful job fighting it to get it to where we are. The House reps that really have taken our battle has been Representative Gainey, Regan, Jim Cox, Miccarelli, Jordan Harris, Russ Diamond. We have true allies. And when we're sitting up in the balconies this afternoon, we know that they're fighting for us. They're not fighting for profits. They're not fighting for big corporations. They're fighting for us. Patients and advocates, they're fighting for us. The next person I want to introduce is a patient who has completely changed his life because he almost didn't have one. And I want him to tell a little bit of his story. Mr. Ron Boyles.
How's everybody doing today? Good day. I'm not really prepared for this and I'm pretty nervous, but this is kind of like a coming out for me. 16 years ago I broke my back and I've had 9 back surgeries, a lot of health problems from that. A year and a half ago I was dead, in the hospital dead. I don't remember it, but I see the medical records and I talk to people, so I know it happened. I was on a lot of medications, mostly opiates, and really, really high doses. I've heard a lot of people here talking about their opiate use, and I can tell you that that was peanuts compared to what they had me on. And it didn't really help. So I made the decision 10 months ago. I was done with what the doctors were telling me, and I was taking my health into my own hands. That was June of last year, I'm sorry. Since June of last year, I've completely stopped all chemicals from my body. That includes Advil, caffeine, anything that there is, I don't take. I eat healthy. In 9 months, I've lost 124 pounds. For 10 years, I walked with a cane. I can't even tell you guys how I feel, and it's all from spending a summer in Colorado. And it's a shame that I had to do that. I have my house of 25 years near State College on the market because I want to move. I don't want to move because I hate Pennsylvania. I want to move because I need to be able to not be a criminal. I'm not a criminal. I'm trying to take care of my health and stay alive. That's all I'm doing. And if anybody wants to look down on me and see my pictures from my life the last 15 years and what cannabis can do for you, especially with an opiate problem in this country that's going to destroy us. The doctors are just giving us to children now. They can't do it. It doesn't work. I was pounding my fist saying, I need these drugs all the time when people said, you're taking too much. I'm what they call an accidental addict. I never once took a drug to get high. Never did I take a pill to get high. When I said that I wanted off of them, that's when I realized what addiction was. And that was horrible. I went through it myself in an RV in Colorado, and it was terrible, but I made it through. They said it would kill me. My doctor said to me when I told them what I was doing, they said, good luck. Exactly what they said. And I think it's important to note that for the most part, a doctor's responsibility with opiates stops at the writing of that prescription. It's up to the individual to get off if they want, and they have to find the way to do it. I'm sure there's doctors that help, but I didn't get a lot from any of my doctors. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm so happy that I know this is going to pass today or this week. And I hope that everybody behind me gets the help they need, and everybody listening gets the help they need, and that these people that have held it up this long understand what they've been doing to us. I think that's important. So that's all I have to say, and I just want to thank Christy for the great comradeship. She's done so much. This girl works her rear end off, let me tell you. She's been a great help to me. This is my first time talking about my experience, and I wouldn't have done it without her.
None of this can be done without people. None of this can be done without patients. None of this can be done without advocates. We all stand together. Just because we have a small group behind us We have a small group up in the House Hall as well. We're representing all over the Capitol today. We will continue to represent all week. All week. You'll see us in the halls with signs. You'll see us everywhere. We're going to represent. We will get a good bill, and I believe that we will get a bill that we will be happy with. And I can't wait to share success stories with you. I have one more patient that's going to tell you about what it's like to wait and become a criminal while we wait for a bill, since we've stalled for months and months and months. He's not the only patient I've heard this story from. Because we are patients for safe access, you'd be surprised how many calls a week I get saying, I got a DUI because I medicate, I'm an out-of-state patient and I have a card, but I'm still a criminal in Pennsylvania, what can I do? At this point, we have nothing set up even for a legal team to help these patients. That's something we're going to look forward to in the future as well. But we have patients every day getting DUIs. If you have any trace of THC in your system at all while driving, you are considered DUI. Any trace. You could have smoked 30 days ago if you're a heavy smoker. You could have smoked or vaped 3 months ago and it could still be in your system and you're still a DUI patient. Something to consider. These are things that we have to look forward to going through this process of the bill that we're about to get today and tomorrow. We've got to keep fighting for patients. And I say this over and over again, it takes sometimes a phone call, sometimes a letter, sometimes just being here and being a body in our background to prove that we are standing together and we are standing up for the fight. Patients should not be criminals. No one should suffer, especially our veterans, our wonderful veterans who have suffered for our country, for our freedoms. How is it a freedom that they are put in jail or on house arrest, in prison, or so many other things whenever they have fought for our country and our freedom? Let me introduce to you Mr. Matt Wrigley.
Good morning, or as I like to say, hi from the happy hippie, which is what I normally go by, but my real name is Matheau Dorian Ringley. I am a service-connected disabled war veteran, 100% permanent and total. I was injured during the Gulf War. I suffered from something horrible that probably a lot of people have heard about, post-diagnosis, until 2009, when they actually realized all the problems that I had. Now, thanks to degenerative disc disease, my broken back, my broken neck, the issues with my hip do not make this hippie happy. And the story that I'm getting ready to relate to you actually disturbs me a great deal, so here we go. In November of 2014, I was going to one of my shows because I'm also a cannabis comedian and I'm also a cannabis crusader. I make up little jokes by saying, just do it. Weed the people. Yes, we cannabis. And toke it easy. I want to be like the next Tommy Chong, going around and putting smiles on people's faces, not putting frowns on them. In November of 2014, even after having a clean criminal record and serving our military, after hitting a deer on my way to one of my shows and calling for the state game commissioner to come out to put the deer down because I had not killed the deer. Instead of sending the state game commissioner, they sent state policemen. Not one, but two. And because I was dressed head to toe in tie-dye, and because of having long hair, I was immediately profiled as being a stoner and not a medical patient. I was immediately, as soon as I tried to bring out my phone and record them because they wanted to ask me a bunch of questions and not let me have my lawyer because I was in the middle of a panic attack trying to talk to these officers and explain the situation. When I pulled my phone out, I was immediately arrested. My phone was taken away from me. I was put into handcuffs with all the issues that I have, and I was forced at threat because the cops had told me that if I don't go with them the easy way, I can go with them the hard way. And they said this in front of 3 of my good friends, one of whom is here today. They said this in front of my mother and father, and they told me that if you don't go with us willingly, which I was not given a choice, and we have the O'Connell warning, and we have the right to refusal for a reason, that I would be tased, I would be thrown on the ground, I would be hog-tied, and I would be thrown in the back of the cruiser with having a broken back and having a fractured neck and having all the issues that I do. I was threatened time and time again. I don't really like relating this horror story that this happy hippie went through because, trust me, I'm no longer the happy hippie. I am the heinous hippie because I am a patient who has run out of patience. Sorry, brain fart there. Seizure. I'm okay. That's something else I have is seizures because of the brain injury and the traumatic brain injury. I'm not enjoying having a seizure up here, but it is what it is. And if it can happen to a service-connected disabled war veteran, if it can happen to somebody with a clean criminal record who has never tried to cause any problems for anyone, then it can happen to you. And I'm not trying to put some horror story out to put the fear of God into you. But when I'm standing before you here today as a cannabis warrior and as a casualty to this war on drug, which is nothing but a joke, and it's not a funny joke, it is a terrible joke. And the fact that we've had to wait for over 2 years to get it to where it is now is a farce. I am hoping and I am praying with everything and every fiber of myself that this gets to the House floor today for a vote, because I know that yes, we cannabis weed the people. I thank everybody for your time, and let's make this happen for our patients. Thank you.
Interesting stories, you know, if you take the time to listen, the stories are out there, the education's out there. Google's a wonderful thing. Expand your mind, talk to people, break the stigma, help patients. This is what we had prepared for today, and this concludes this. We offer that we are going to take a petition to Turzai's office, the 20,000 signatures. And we're also going to go up to the main rotunda down the House Hall, and we'll be holding signs supporting Campaign for Compassion in their continued support all day. We recommend that you follow us. If you're not going to follow us to Turzai's office, that's okay. But we ask that you go up and at least try to help support Campaign for Compassion, and have a great day.